I feel high on love. Oh my gosh. We want to experience separation. You may need to go into a whole new experience of the love that you are. What is love really? But I was cheating all the time, if I'm honest. Why are you still there? Out of love or out of addiction? You are all of it. I just experienced him being scary. Why are you still accepting breadcrumbs? It was so humiliating to acknowledge that. So today the whole world is celebrating Valentine's Day. And some people create magical experiences for themselves and their loved ones, and other people completely despise this holiday, and other people create rituals of self-love and self-nourishment, and other people create manifestation rituals to manifest their loved ones. So wherever you are on the spectrum, I know that you are into love. That's why you're here. And so am I. I am really into love. And one of the purposes for my incarnation, I really believe, is to understand and to embody and to transmit and to teach and to share what is true love and what is the highest meeting of the masculine and feminine. Whenever I start working with my clients, we always start by looking at love, looking at their love lives, even if they want to come into a new level of self-expression, create new level of success in their business, even if they want to experience deeper merging with the divine. That's usually all the things that my clients want. We always start with love. We always start with relationships, because relationships and our attitudes in relationship reveal everything about us, everything. And one really important distinction that we really have to make in the very beginning of this podcast episode is between what is real love and what is addiction. So addiction to love is a very big way how the disease of our times really expresses itself. And I truly see the disease of our times is the disease of believing that we are disconnected from the source of existence, from the source of love, from the divinity that is our true nature. So we live in this confusion, we live in this disconnection, and then we are attracting experiences to ourselves that prove to us that we are right. It's like the soul incarnates on this human plane to experience the ache, the unbearable pain of separation. And this experience is so essential, is so intimate. This is why we're here. We really came to feel that. We really came to get drenched in that. So what I hear from many of my clients, they say, I really feel so much love inside of me, and I do all these loving things to myself, and yet the external love is still not manifesting. Or my clients who are currently in relationships, they may find themselves like, but I am doing everything right. I am showing up in the power of a woman that I am. I am showing up in my beauty. I am caring. I am loving. And still, my partner is not giving me what I want. What I have to say here is that you are moving through a spiral in your life. You are moving up and up and up. Sometimes you pause and you might move down. But overall, if you are really following the path of transformation, if you are committed to evolution, if you're committed to your revelation of the divine truth that you are, then you will find yourself spiraling up. And what was your expression of love a couple of months ago or a couple of years ago, it's peanuts for you right now. It's already a level that you have moved from. And you may need to go into a whole new experience of the love that you are. Because the external world will always mirror to you what you are. In reality, there's even no external world. The external world is just a perception. but in fact, it's just an emanation of what you are. And so that relationship with love that you have within yourself, if you are still seeking for love, if you are still seeking for validation, if you are entertaining the patterns of addiction, this is what will be reflected to you externally. The topic of love addiction is something that we really have to address when we speak about love. Because love addiction is something that has become so normalized. It's something that we see whenever we think about love. We actually don't think about love. We think about the addiction to love. We think about something that someone external can provide for us and something that we are not complete without. So there you are, your partner is not giving you the attention, the validation that you desire. And then you make it mean that they don't love you and that there's something wrong with you and that you haven't done enough work on yourself. Or if you're single, you may be looking at the men that appear in your life and you might feel like, oh my gosh, these are just not the right people for me. What is wrong with me? What is going on? If you have some self-awareness, you will look at yourself and you will go like, okay, no, it's me. I am doing something about it. If you don't have that, you will say, well, it's just there are no good men out there. It's just not the right people. I'm not in the right environment. Maybe I need to move. Maybe I need to move countries. Maybe. So depending where you are, you will look at it from different standpoints. If you're looking at it as in there is something not right with me, that's not any better than when you're saying there's something not right with them. It's both an externalization of love, and it's both a sign of addiction to love. It's both a sign that you are expecting this fix. So one of my closest people, my best friend many years ago, like 15, 16 years ago, was a heroin addict. And that was the first time that I really started to contemplate addiction, because I grew up surrounded by addiction, like all of us. People who drink alcohol, people who are addicted to emotional roller coasters, people who are addicted to food, people who are addicted to distracting themselves. It's a world of addiction we live in. But at that time, when I met this friend of mine and I found out about his heroin addiction, I really started to contemplate it. And one time, something really painful happened for me. Because what he was telling me, he was saying that I used to be an addict. When I was in the university, when I was studying, I used to be an addict. And actually, at that time, when he was a student, it was kind of like an elite thing to do. So no one knew about heroin. No one knew that it's a drug that kills you. And so in their group of friends, it was like a cool thing to do. They were the cool ones. And so they were experiencing those high states and then obviously feeling terrible, but still they didn't know that it's a bad thing. Anyway, he was telling me, it was in my uni times. I'm done with that. And then one day he calls me in a strange moment, and his voice was just terrible. I could not understand what was off. At that time, I didn't have a language for that. But I just experienced him being scary. It was scary to hear his voice. Not scary that he could do something bad to me, but scary because I felt he completely changed personality. I felt like he was like dead already. It's like he did not exist. The person that I knew did not exist anymore. And so this person was talking to me, and I don't remember what he was saying, but there was a vibe, there was an energy behind his words, which gave me shivers and made me feel very uncomfortable. And so we had that conversation. And later, some days later, we met and I asked him, why are you doing this? You sounded so terrible. It was so disgusting to hear you in that state. Why are you doing this? And he said, look, Sophia, you never tried. You will never know. And that phrase stayed with me. And I started to really question, where is he going? What is he experiencing? So I understood that there was some kind of like a mysterious pull that he was experiencing that was completely impossible for him to resist. And even though he was convincing me and telling me that he is an ex addict, later he also told me that there are no ex addicts. That if someone has experienced addiction to something as strong as heroin, they will never get off it. I don't think this is true, but that's how a heroin addict would describe his addiction. He says there's no way out of it. And if you haven't tried it, you will never understand it. And so when I understood the love addiction, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We can say, unless you really find the cure that cures everything, it's like one bullet kills it all. Unless you find really such a deep cure, you will stay an addict forever. The addiction and the way I also experienced it in myself, and I would never consider myself an addict. I saw addiction around me, but I would never consider myself to be an addict until I really saw how this obsession with love, with sustaining a certain relationship, which had no hope, and I talked about it in my previous episode, how trying to sustain that relationship became the center of my existence. And it was so humiliating to acknowledge that, to realize it. There was so much shame in seeing that me, having done so much work on myself, being so developed, so conscious, and I find myself in this situation that this particular relationship becomes the center of my existence. And I always think about it. I always try to understand it. I always think about what's going to happen. Why did it happen? I always try to analyze it. I always think about that object of addiction just like a heroin addict. I find myself always being in this quest. Is this gonna work? Can I have more of that? Can I have more of that? So it's just like looking for that fix. So in the addiction, you are always looking for that fix. And so I find myself in that cycle of waiting for my fix. And when I get my fix, like a proper addict, I feel satisfied. I'm high. I feel high on love. Oh my gosh, there was this amazing date. I received all these things that I want to receive, all these promises, all these words of appreciation. And the man was really there with me and he was so good and he really looks like the one. And then I get into my fantasy and then this fantasy makes me really get so high. It's just like a fix, like a heroin addict getting the fix. So no addiction is better than another, because the worst thing about the addiction is that it's actually fatal. Actually, people have lost their lives to love addiction, just like they have to heroin addiction. And that was the story of my friend, that in the end, he actually died. And the story of his death and this whole experience was an incredibly traumatic and difficult experience in my life. But at the same time, that experience was such a big wake up call for me. And that was what catalyzed my whole spiritual path, my whole journey of awakening. And now, having faced my own love addiction so precisely, I had to look at my whole life and realize that I have been addicted my whole life. That it's not something that just emerged because of certain behaviors that this man was demonstrating that were perfectly matching my own traumas. It's like what we call trauma bonding, where we have perfectly matching traumas. We have perfectly matching things that we have to learn. And so his avoidance was triggering my anxiety. His narcissistic tendencies were feeding those parts of me that wanted to hear all these things and were trying to source the love from outside. Because that's what addiction is. It's trying to source the love from outside, trying to source the fulfillment, the nourishment from outside. And so what I saw is that it was there my whole life. At some point in my life, I actually went on to seduction fast because I saw how much of my energy was invested into seducing men, how much I wanted men's attention, that everything I would dress, how I would put on my makeup, how I would do my hair, how I would speak, how I would walk, all of that had this kind of subtle agenda that was wanting to get people's attention. It wanted to be seen as the best, as the desirable woman, as an attractive woman. And how much energy was leaking into that. I saw that, and that's how I took the seduction fast. And then I also turned it into relationships fast, where I stayed away from any forms of relationship for prolonged periods of time, like half a year, and I did it a couple of times in my life. But I was cheating all the time, if I'm honest. So I promised to myself that I would not enter into any kind of relationships, into any kind of relatings with men. And I sustained that fast for 6 months, at least, a couple of times in my life. And yet, if I'm honest, I was cheating all the time because the addiction, it's stronger than me. It's stronger than you. Just like my friend said, you never tried, you will never know. But if you've tried, and we all have tried, really, at least 95% of people are addicted on this planet. So we all have tried, but we are not all honest enough with ourselves to understand how much it is depleting us, how much it is draining us, how much this is such a self betrayal. And so we have to get so honest about that. Is this love or is this addiction that you're experiencing? And even if you're single, when you are having those flirtatious moments or you're seeking for attention, is this love or is this addiction? Because what is love really? Love is a source of our existence. Love is something that we are. It's something that we are the source of, even. So, how can you seek something that you are the source of? And yet we do that. Isn't it madness? Isn't this craziness that we are seeking for something that we are? So, how to get out of this? How to get out of this endless search, endless search? First of all, is the honesty, like really getting honest. Now, am I entertaining this potential connection because I feel like I'll be miserable without it? Because it will prove me that I am worthy of love? This person I met, and he has some kind of ambiguity around his relationships, and he has multiple partners, and he's not sure, and he is confused, and he kind of is ready to welcome you into his harem. You are entering into it. Is this from love or is this from addiction? You are meeting a person who is not providing for you in the way that you want. You're meeting a person who is not offering you the honoring, the respect that you desire. Man who is not opening doors for you, who is not supporting you, who is not helping you. Are you entertaining this connection out of love or out of addiction? You are currently in a relationship and your partner is not fully present with you. He is choosing other type of activities rather than being with you. He is having so much to do, and you know there is love, and we don't need to question love. Love is always there. But you entertaining this relationship and trying to make it work, is this from love or from addiction? Or you have a partner who is really present with you, who is really good, who really checks all the check boxes, but you know you're not fully met. Why are you still there? Out of love or out of addiction? So let's tune into that right now. Do that with me. Stop whatever you're doing and really focus here with me. Go inwards It helps to place your hands on your body, feeling the weight of your hands. You can close your eyes to really drop inwards and notice, what does this podcast episode bring up in you? What does this conversation bring up in you? Is it love or is it addiction? Seeking for love outside of yourself, where you know that all the love is within you. Notice how you've been seeking for love externally, just today, just yesterday, just this week, where you've been trying to get something, a sense of validation, a sense of your worth, a sense of approval, a sense of that you're good enough from someone else. Where you are entertaining romantic fantasies really take you out of yourself. And now just bring yourself back to you. It's like you call all your energy back to you, into your body, into your heart. You call yourself back home to yourself. I am all the love that I will ever need. All the love that I will ever need is within me. I am that love. Take a deep breath. Really let yourself feel it in your body. I am the love that I need. And then when you draw all this energy back to yourself and you remember yourself as that love, how does the world around you look? There will be more peace. There will be less attachment to the outcomes. There will be less struggle to try to get things done, to try to give a certain impression to someone. There will be less worries about different interactions that you've had. When you recognize that all the love that you will ever need is the love that you are, all the hustle drops away. There's no need to prove anything anymore. Can you deal with that? It's all unfolding perfectly right. So all of that sounds right, and you even understand the pathway into it. Question, why is it still so hard? Why are you still accepting breadcrumbs? Why it may happen again and again that you will need another fix? How to eradicate that once and for all? And the honest answer is that it's a process. The transformation is instant, but the deconditioning is a process. You need to go through a process. You need to go through the process that opens through your honesty, and more honesty and more honesty. So, of course, you need to continue interacting with the world. You need to continue interacting with the men, with the women, with the world. You need to continue allowing yourself to be triggered and to see what arises from these triggers. Because when you are triggered, for example, you're like, "Oh, okay, maybe that's the one." You check yourself. Again, are you going into addiction? Are you in a fantasy? Oh, okay, no, maybe not. This person, but he really behaved so nicely. He was so kind to me. Maybe, ah, ah. You notice that and you keep yourself in check and you bring yourself home. My partner, he's really not giving me what I need. He said he's gonna do that and he's not doing that. Addiction or love, and you bring yourself back home. So this has to be a continuous process. And at the same time, another part is entering into a place of self-worth, into a place of wholeness. And there are various things that are a part of that. So I have created a whole program that will support women in that. It's called Becoming Her. And it's not just a program, it's a whole advanced training for women to really become her, become that woman who is oozing worth, who is oozing love. It's that kind of woman that you see, she walks into a space and she has a vibe to her, a vibe that makes her impossible to miss in the crowd. And you've seen this type of woman. Wherever she goes, there are men around her, wanting to help her, wanting to support her, opening doors for her, bringing her gifts, offerings. Becoming her means becoming that woman who is so anchored in herself, who is so anchored in her divinity, who is so free to express her range. So, we will be working with the whole range of a woman from this place where she is open and receptive and looking at the world through the eyes of innocence and freshness, who is not burdened by the past and by the past pain, who is not expecting the worst from the world and from the man. You'll be also working with the part of you, the wild woman part of you that is so expressive, that is so unapologetic, that is so clear on her boundaries and her standards, and her wild, free expression is her breath. And it's a breath of life for all. You'll be working on embodying the seductress or the sacred slut within, who is so attuned to her sexual expression, who knows that her erotic power is her home, who knows that there is nothing for her to be ashamed of, but she delights in her own sexual pleasure. And she connects to that pleasure all the time. She knows that her erotic pleasure, her erotic aliveness is her power. This is what makes her powerful. This is what makes her radiant. This is what you see in people who are naturally magnetic. They are exuding this erotic power. So we'll be working with that archetype and activating that within you. Then we'll be also working with the archetype of the priestess, who is the conduit between the spirit and the earth. And so she embraces all these powerful expressions. And at the same time, she does that as a conduit for the divine. So every her expression becomes grace. Every her expression becomes a blessing to this world. So she walks on this earth and she blesses this earth with every step. And finally, we will also be working with the archetype of the queen, the one who is settled on her throne, who does not need to prove anything, who does not need to wait for external permission or validation, who is not there begging for love. Can you imagine a queen begging for love? Can you imagine a queen who welcomes people and they come to her without offerings, without gifts? So we will work with this entire range inside of becoming her. And we will also go deeper than that. We will go into the source of it all, into the divine union, into the understanding that all this expression is only possible when you discover the stillness within you, the eternal peace within you. And having this peace, you don't become uninterested in life. Quite on the contrary, having this peace, you expressing the range of your femininity takes you out of all addiction because you are in the divine union. So my training, Becoming Her, will be fully dedicated to that. And this is a gift I've been working on for months now, actually for years. It's really a product of my 13 years of spiritual work with women. I'll be launching this training really soon, but now actually we are in the middle of a giveaway of this training. So I'm giving a full scholarship for this training to one woman. And it's a very high value training. The full price of it is around $2,000, and you can win it. So there is a whole giveaway going on. You can be a part of it. So I will add the link to the show notes and you'll find out how you can enter the giveaway. There are just a few more days left to enter. So the only and ultimate cure of love addiction and of all addiction is the recognition of the divine union, is the recognition of your inherent worth, of your inherent wholeness. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. Of course, it all helps. It helps to look into it. It helps to look into the conditions you have, your ancestry, where it's coming from. But don't get too fascinated about that, because you might find yourself searching and searching and searching and searching and searching and just going down the rabbit hole, which actually has no end. This is welcome. It's accepted. You can do all sorts of therapy. You can do all sorts of soul searching. You can do all of that. You can call in the missing pieces. But what will cure it ultimately is the remembrance of the divine within you. It's a remembrance that you are that love that you've been seeking for. It's the remembrance that this wound, the wound of separation, that pain of separation, that unbearable ache of separation, is something that takes you home. It's not something that you have to resist. It's not something that you have to improve. It's something that you get to say yes to. Just like what I started with. The separation is something that we came here to experience. We want to experience separation because we want to feel the ache that lives within that separation, that unbearable pain. I've lost my source. I've disconnected from the essence of who I am. What an unbearable ache. And all the sadness and all the depression and all the pain that I have ever experienced, you have ever experienced, all of that is just a burp out of that ache that never goes away, that ache that takes you into the longing for the divine, the longing for the eternal beloved. And you can soften into that ache, and you can go into that longing, and you can give yourself to it without resistance. It's unbearable. It hurts so much. And yet you can go there. And when you go there, and you will try to resist, and you will feel like, but I'm going to go crazy if I go there. But it hurts so much. No, let me get distracted by another potential partner. Let me get distracted by trying to be more seductive. Let me try to get distracted by going to another social event and searching. Let me go back to the dating app and continue scrolling. You try to resist this bottomless ache. But what if you stay? What if you stay? And you trust that you get to be here. And yes, your personality will crumble. Yes, you will break apart. Is it good news? Is it bad news? I don't know. But I know that you were born for that. I know that you were born to experience the fullness of this ache, the fullness of this longing. Because when you give yourself to it, you understand that there's no wound, that there's no separation. The eternal beloved is embracing you right now. And there's nothing that you're missing. There's nothing that you can ever get, because you are all of it. So take yourself out of that struggle. Take yourself out of that resistance, because it's suffering. It's only causing suffering. It's not necessary. You can stay with the ache, smile to the ache, recognize this embrace that's holding you right now, and be free. And be grateful for the addiction, and be grateful for all the fixes you've received in your life. And at the same time, now all of that can be offered up to the source of existence, and you get to merge into the eternal embrace. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know how this episode lands for you. I'd love to know what are your takeaways, what have you received from being here together. I'd love to know what are you committing to from now on in your life. And I'd love to invite you on the journeys together with me. I'd love for you to be a part of Becoming Her. And you can join the giveaway still. There are a couple of days left for that. And I'm also soon going to be running a free masterclass called She, the Love Magnet. So you're also very, very welcome to join this one. And we will continue deepening into your truth, continue deepening into your home. This work is a work of a lifetime. It never ends because you keep experiencing more and more of the glory that you are. And the stakes are higher, and your commitment to love is higher and higher and higher because your closeness to the source is deeper and deeper and deeper. So thank you for being here. May this be of the highest benefit.